Is Captain Kongo Muigai. I'm the chairman of the Kenya Cultural Center and also the patron of the National Council of Elders. There's a story I've seen in the social media about me and my company, Benjo Amalgamated Limited, and I would like to state so that for clarity, people can understand where it's coming from. In 1989, I applied for a loan from KCB through my company, Benjo Amalgamated Limited, to start a floriculture business for growing flowers to export to Europe. The bank approved a loan of 23 million, and they asked me to put initial capital of 13 million to buy the farm, prepare the farm, irrigate it. And I did all that, and I grew 25 acres of flowers. But when the time came for export, which is the most expensive part of this project, we were in the middle of fighting for Section 2A, Mount Patti, and I was on the side of fighting for Mount Patti, and therefore the government was not very happy, and they stopped my loan. They had only disbursed 9 million out of 23. They stopped the loan, and they foreclosed it. They started demanding payment. I went to court and sued them for breach of contract through High Court case number 1219 of 1992. Before the case proceeded, the file got lost. And I applied for the file to be reconstructed. I filed my plaint, my chamber summons, my affidavit. But the bank said verbally that the matter had been settled through a consent judgment where I agreed that I owe the bank and I'll pay them. I protested because there was nothing like that. The order was supposed to have been recorded by Justice Erastus Gethenji. We went to him through an application, and he dismissed. He said there's no judgment like that. But the bank went to the Court of Appeal before Justice Quach, Justice Tunoi, and Justice Bosile. And they ruled that indeed that judgment is there, although they didn't see it. They said I must have stolen the file, and they said that without any investigations, and they said that the order exists. I came to find out later through a worker from the lawyer who was representing the bank that bench was given 1 million shillings through Justice Quach, and the money was delivered at the Hilton Hotel, basement parking, and that's why they ruled like that. After that, my father, I had given the bank 2 securities, my farms, and my father had given a guarantee with his coffee farm. And in 1995, my father said, I'll pay off the 9 million you say you are owed, so you can release my farm. And he paid 6 million. The bank wrote him and said, we have received, now you owe 3 million. But unfortunately, my father died. That was in July. My father died in August. And my mother wrote back to the bank, asking them to state the final account. And to our surprise, 4 months later, the bank wrote and said the outstanding sum is 44.3 million. From 3 million to 44 million in a period of 4 months. And that's when I went to court to challenge that. And the matter went before Justice Lanaora, now a Supreme Court judge. And we argued, how can this? But Justice Lanaora said he cannot interfere. It's a leader, borrow a matter. And later, I learned through the same employee of the bank's lawyer that Justice Lanaora received 1 million shillings in a parking lot of some supermarket, which I can disclose in camera, and that's why he ruled like that. And after that, the bank got emboldened, and they sold, instead of selling my securities, the 2 farms that belonged to Benjo, which was enough to cover the loan, they sold Muigai Coffee Estate, which was just a guarantor. Muigai Coffee Estate is 450 acres under coffee, with 2 factories and buildings, over 100 head of cattle. It was valued, force value was 3.5 billion, but the bank sold it for 70 million to somebody called Kamresh Rahul of BD Limited. 70 million, that was equivalent to 10 acres. That's what they sold our farm, 450 acres. And Kamresh Patni, a year later, sold the same farm to the Shah community for 3.5 billion. The reason of this forceful takeover is because the Shah community want to relocate to Mangu. I think parklands had become crowded, so they want to relocate to Mangu, and our farm is right in the middle of that plan. So all this money that is being used to bribe judges and officers of the KCB is coming from that community, the SAR community. So after that, we challenged that sale in court, and the case was heard by Justice Reddy, the late Justice Joyce Kaminwa, God bless her soul. And she said, she told them to bring accounts, and the accounts that the bank brought, although I opened my account on 4th of April 1989, they brought accounts from September 1991 with an opening balance of balance brought forward. Justice Kaminwa ruled and said this is fraudulent, this sale is fraudulent, and she recommended that the police take over the case. The bank rushed to court, to the Court of Appeal, and made an application to dismiss Kaminwa's judgment, and it was heard by Justice Nabuye, Justice Makadia, Justice Kathurima Muinoti. They dismissed Kaminwa's ruling and reinstated the non-existent consent judgment, although they didn't see it. I have no evidence that money changed hands, but your guess is as good as mine for a judge to say a judgment exists that does not exist. And from there, I decided to go to the Supreme Court to have this matter settled. So I went before the Court of Appeal to seek for leave, and the matter was heard by retired Justice GBM Kariuki, Supreme Court Judge now, William Mouko, and the President of the Court of Appeal, Daniel Musinga. They dismissed, although they agreed that indeed the matter of a lost record is a matter of public interest, they said a consent order exists and therefore they cannot interfere with it. They did not cite that consent order. It was not produced in court. So they refused, they denied permission to go to the Supreme Court. I had filed under Benjo. I filed the same application under Muiri Coffee Estate, and it went before Justice Kiage, Justice Jamila Mohammed, and Justice Agnes Murgo. And this bench agreed with me that indeed a matter of lost court record is a matter of public interest, and they asked the apex court, the Supreme Court, to pronounce themselves what should happen if a court record goes missing. So we went to the Supreme Court before the bench of CJ Emeritus Willie Mutunga, DCJ Emeritus Kalpana Rawal, Justice Joki Dongo, Justice Mohammed Ibrahim, and Justice Jackton Ojoang. They agreed with us about the missing record. It's a matter of public interest. But again, even them, they reverted and said there is a consent that was entered, and it said you owe the bank. But they did not see that consent. My lawyer in that court was Senior Counsel Paul Muite, and he challenged them. He said, where is this judgment? And they asked the bank lawyer, Mr. Philip Nyachoti, and Mr. Philip Nyachoti admitted that the judgment does not exist. But regardless, when they came to deliver their judgment, they said, yes, this judgment exists. And they said, we cannot interfere. This is the position. And I came to learn from a friend of mine who was my classmate, that this bench of the Supreme Court was bribed with $3.5 million. And the money was paid in Jersey, and it was paid through the husband of Justice Kaupana Rawal, Mr. Rawal, for the benefit of the Supreme Court. I didn't feel satisfied, so I applied to have a 5-judge bench of the Court of Appeal to hear this matter again. Again, we went to court, and I was represented by Professor Bob Chalo, who is a renowned lawyer. And when we went to court, he categorically stated, we are here, we want that judgment produced before court. We have no other arguments, we just want that judgment. Again, the lawyer of KCB, Philip Nyachoti, admitted that judgment does not exist. But when they delivered their judgment, the 5 judges, Newton Makadia, Mokadhurima Muinoti, Orekantai, Mativo, and Tuyot, they ruled that indeed that judgment is there. They used the word that this judgment is in all the records of this court. And I came to learn through the same friend of mine that they received a bribe of $2.5 million, which was paid in the firm of a prominent lawyer here in Nairobi. My witnesses are ready and willing to give evidence in camera if this is required. And that's why I went to the Judicial Service Commission and I made a petition that they call me, I give my evidence, then they call the judges to explain why or where this judgment is. I was surprised after about a year sitting on the petition, the Judicial Service Commission has written to me. They didn't call me to give evidence, but they have written to me and told me that the judges can use their judicial discretion, and that what they said is what is there. So I'm wondering, do they have discretion to tell a lie? If a judge says a judgment exists and it is a lie, does judicial discretion cover that? And that's why I have decided to talk about this matter, because I don't want it to be distorted. Anybody who wants a reference, please come to me, especially the media. If you have any questions, if you have any clarification, I have all the documents and I have the names of my witnesses. So thank you very much. Well, I must say I was delighted to hear the president call out corruption in this country, especially the judiciary. And I must say, as long as the judiciary is corrupt, we cannot deal with corruption. Because they are the ones who are supposed to arrest corruption. And I can tell Kenyans, our judiciary is corrupt to the core. It is corrupt. And they take money openly, and they make judgments the way they want. I know in this country, nobody can point a finger at the other person and call them corrupt. The only Kenyan who is not corrupt is a person who has no opportunity to be corrupt, either to give or take. Otherwise, we are all corrupt. But the judiciary, the parliamentarians, if they become corrupt, we can vote them out after 5 years. But the judiciary, nobody can touch them. So they're there punishing people. I have seen people die in the courts. Somebody just collapses because of the injustice. And that's why I have fought for those 33 years. I don't fight for me. It's for those people I know. People have talked to me over the years. When you are in the corridors of courts, that's all we do. Everybody gives a story about their case. And I have seen people suffer. I have seen people suffer. I have seen people get sick and die. So I am prepared. I'm prepared to put my life on the line to make sure that nobody will face the kind of injustice that I have faced.